The restaurant grew quieter as the tycoon's words settled into the air, his foreign language rolling off his tongue like a weapon sharpened for humiliation. He leaned back in his chair, expensive watch catching the warm chandelier light, eyes fixed on the waitress as if she were an exhibit meant to entertain him. Around them, other diners pretended not to listen, forks slowing, glasses hovering midair, everyone sensing something sharp about to happen. The waitress stood still, hands gently clasped in front of her apron, face calm, almost unreadable. She had heard tones like his before, not just the words, but the intent behind them. The tycoon smirked, continuing his sentence, adding more flair, more arrogance, confident that no one in this modest restaurant could possibly understand the language he had chosen. It was a language of boardrooms, private jets, and closed-door deals, a language he used when he wanted to remind people of their place. He laughed softly at his own remark, a sound that carried entitlement, then paused, waiting for her confused reaction, for the awkward smile, for the apology he believed he deserved by birthright. But it didn't come. Instead, the waitress slowly raised her eyes to meet his. There was no fear there, no embarrassment. Just focus. The tycoon's smile faltered for half a second, barely noticeable, but enough. He cleared his throat and repeated the last phrase, more slowly this time, as if volume or clarity would magically assert dominance. Still nothing. The waitress took a quiet breath, the kind that comes before speaking a truth you've carried for a long time. And then, in the same foreign language, perfect accent, flawless rhythm, she responded. Not just a reply, but a continuation of his sentence, finishing the thought he had started, correcting a grammatical mistake he hadn't even realized he made. The words flowed from her effortlessly, cultured, precise, and sharp. The tycoon froze mid-motion, his fingers stiff around his glass. His eyes widened, jaw tightening as if his mind had slammed into a locked door. For the first time since he'd entered the restaurant, he didn't know what to say. A murmur rippled through the room. Chairs creaked. Someone at a nearby table gasped softly. The waitress didn't raise her voice, she didn't need to. She calmly explained, in that same language, exactly what his words implied, translating them with brutal honesty. She didn't add insults. She didn't need to. The truth itself was enough. She told him how his comment reduced service workers to objects, how it revealed insecurity disguised as power, and how people who truly belonged in elite circles never needed to announce it. With every sentence, the tycoon seemed to shrink, shoulders stiffening, confidence leaking out through the cracks in his expensive suit. His face flushed, not with anger now, but with something far worse for a man like him, exposure. He tried to interrupt her, stumbling over his own words, suddenly unsure of pronunciation, suddenly aware that everyone could understand now. She gently held up a hand, polite, professional, and finished speaking. Then, switching back to the local language, she asked if he would like to place his order, or if he needed more time to decide. The contrast was devastating. A few diners couldn't hide their smiles. Someone quietly clapped, then stopped, embarrassed but unable to suppress it. The tycoon swallowed hard, nodding stiffly, ordering the simplest item on the menu. His earlier arrogance evaporated. The waitress wrote it down, thanked him, and walked away, posture straight, dignity intact. As she moved toward the kitchen, memories flickered behind her calm expression, years of studying languages late at night, translating textbooks while working double shifts, a life that had demanded resilience long before this moment. She hadn't learned those languages to impress men like him. She learned them to survive, to grow, to escape the limits people tried to assign her. And now, standing tall in a room that finally saw her, she felt no triumph, only quiet certainty. Moments like these didn't happen by accident, they were earned. Behind her, the tycoon sat in silence, the noise of the restaurant slowly returning around him, laughter and conversation swelling as if nothing had happened. But for him, everything had shifted. The world felt less predictable, less obedient. He glanced around, aware of eyes on him, of judgments he could no longer buy his way out of. For the first time in years, he felt small. And if this moment already has you hooked, if you're feeling that slow burn satisfaction of arrogance meeting reality, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Stories like this aren't just entertainment, they're reminders that respect costs nothing, and underestimating people can cost you everything. The real twist, the one that explains why this waitress could dismantle a tycoon with words alone, is still coming. The waitress returned to the dining floor later that evening carrying a tray, her step steady, her expression unchanged, but the weight of her past pressed closer now, as if the room itself had unlocked a door she rarely opened. The tycoon avoided her eyes when she placed the dish before him, his earlier bravado replaced by a stiff politeness that felt foreign on his tongue. What he didn't know, what no one at that table knew yet, was that her fluency had not come from casual study or privilege, but from a life lived between borders, contracts, and consequences. Years earlier, she had worked as a junior interpreter for an international arbitration firm, sitting in rooms where men like him decided the fate of companies and countries with careless words. She had learned quickly that language was power, and silence, when chosen, was stronger still. But when corruption surfaced and she refused to translate lies as truth, she was quietly pushed out, her career erased without scandal, without apology. Waiting tables was not a fall from grace, it was a retreat, a strategic pause in a world that punished integrity. The tycoon, meanwhile, couldn't shake the unease crawling up his spine. Her voice echoed in his mind, replaying his own words with surgical clarity. He had built his empire on leverage, knowing something others didn't, speaking where others couldn't, controlling rooms by excluding people from understanding. And in one moment, in one unguarded display of cruelty, that advantage had vanished. He recognized the accent she used now. It wasn't academic. It was native level, earned the hard way. When he finally looked up again, he studied her differently, as if trying to read a balance sheet he had underestimated. His companion leaned in and whispered that they should leave. Pride resisted, but something heavier overruled it, fear of being exposed further.